On the bright and pivotal morning of the 8th of August 2023, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu took a decisive step toward addressing one of Nigeria's most enduring challenges, tax reform.
On the day of my inauguration, I promise that my administration will address all the issues impeding investment and economic growth in Nigeria. This promise is why I saw an end to the fuel subsidy. It is the reason the central bank has called an end to its multiple exchange rate system. It won't happen under my watch. It's for this same reason we gather here today to inaugurate the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform.
A vision that aimed to correct systemic inefficiencies, eliminate inequities, and address the deep imbalances that had plagued Nigeria's tax system for decades. For more than half a century, Nigeria's economy had leaned heavily on oil revenues. While this reliance had once propelled the nation forward, it gradually became a double-edged sword. Global oil price shocks and declining reserves exposed Nigeria's economic vulnerability, leaving the country in a precarious position. Over time, the mounting weight of unsustainable debt signaled an urgent need for change. President Tinubu recognized that diversifying Nigeria's revenue streams wasn't just an economic imperative, it was a matter of national survival. To this end, the Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform Committee was tasked with a Herculean mission to design a tax system that was not only robust and efficient, but also inclusive, equitable, and progressive.
We must be committed to establishing a conducive policy environment to attract global and local businesses and position our nation as a hub for research and development, technology and innovation, headquarters location, financial and shared services center for the continent. Our approach will be comprehensive and long-term focused.
The mandate was clear: ensure that every Nigerian, whether an individual or a corporation, contributes their fair share, creating a shared responsibility for the nation's prosperity.
The committee has been established to address the broad physical challenges facing our economy. Its mandate shall be divided into three broad areas. These are: 1. Fiscal governance, B. Tax reforms, and 3rd, growth facilitation.
For over a year, the committee embarked on an intensive journey. They reviewed the complexities of Nigeria's existing tax framework, which was riddled with outdated laws, loopholes, and inefficiencies. Stakeholder engagement became a cornerstone of their approach. Consultations were held with industry leaders, small business owners, regional representatives, and everyday citizens. The committee also studied successful tax reform models from around the world, ensuring that Nigeria's reforms were informed by global best practices while remaining uniquely suited for its local context. On the 3rd of October 2024, exactly 422 days from its inauguration, the committee's efforts culminated in the presentation of a draft tax reform bills to the National Assembly. These bills proposed a groundbreaking overhaul of the tax system, addressing everything from corporate tax rates and personal income tax brackets to incentives for small and medium enterprises. Yet, delivering these bills marked only the beginning of what was to be an arduous journey. On the floor of the National Assembly, the tax reform bills ignited passionate debates. Lawmakers dissected the proposed changes, raising questions about their fairness and practicability. These sentiments echoed beyond the assembly chambers. Across northern Nigeria and in other interest groups, citizens voiced fears that the reforms could exacerbate economic hardship, particularly for the most vulnerable populations. From town hall meetings to social media platforms, Nigerians expressed frustration, skepticism, and in some cases, outright opposition. The federal government, aware of the mounting tension, recognized the need for swift and strategic action. Spearheading this effort was the Ministry of Information and National Orientation, led by the Minister, Mohammed Idris. The ministry launched a comprehensive awareness campaign to explain the reforms and allay public fears. This campaign included town halls, media appearances, and digital outreach initiatives designed to engage citizens directly. Amidst the outcry, the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations stepped forward to foster constructive dialogue. The Kaduna chapter hosted its annual general meeting and public lecture under the theme, Tax Reform, the Role of Public Relations in Fostering Constructive Dialogue for National Economic Renaissance. The event invited key stakeholders, religious leaders, public intellectuals, and community representatives. At the lecture, the minister emphasized that taxation is not merely an economic tool, it is a reflection of a government's social contract with its people. He outlined the administration's commitment to transparency, equity, and fairness in implementing the reforms.
The role of public relations in fostering constructive dialogue for national economic renaissance has brought to the fore, yet again, the place of constructive dialogue as a vital pillar of our democracy. Society advances by mutually respectful engagement, where we give voice to diverse opinions and respect those who we disagree with. We will certainly not always agree on all issues, perhaps not even on most issues, but we'll always be guided by the fact that things that unite us, that is our common humanity, our nationhood, and our sense of patriotism, our collective vision for Nigeria that works for all, will always be more important and more meaningful than the differences of age, of religion, of region, ideology, gender, culture, or even social class.
The lecture brought together a rich tapestry of perspectives. NIPR President Ikenele Aku opened the discussions with a call for transparent communication and the critical role of public relations in bridging the gap between government policies and citizen understanding. His remarks underscored the importance of fostering trust to ensure the reform's success.
We are here because we recognize the rights of citizens to have a say, to ask questions, and to join in conversations of what concerns them.
A fine is a tax you pay for doing something wrong. And a tax is a fine you pay for doing something right. The reforms is about Nigeria, is about our future, is about our economy, is about our well-being, is about our lives. Unfortunately, what I've seen since this conversation on tax reform bill has started is that the whole issue is politicized. And we are no more talking about the content and the clauses of the bill. It is all mired in politics.
What I say, imagine, is a tax reform bill that's going to compel those who are serious about leadership to make their environment attractive to investment. You go and tie a road, and it's not peculiar to the north. I've been to a place where the road, a flyover that was built for nearly 1.8 billion somewhere in the further southern part of the country. You cross that place, 9 people have motorcycles in the area, 9. And it's a fishing area. That's the sort of thing that has to end. You see, the tax reform bills is going to compel closer attention to development.
The idea now is that if 15% is to federal government, now it's 10%, state government get 55, and local government get some of these things. The idea is that some local governments and states, which are endowed with some of the industry, will get more. My friends from Borno State are saying, what of us? We have been impoverished by war, by insurgencies. We don't have such things. These are the fears. This bill will repeal 11 other existing tax reform measures already in use in Nigeria.
When there is no production, we're in trouble. And so we need to change our mindset. I just came back from Lagos, and Lagos State government boldly said the total revenue that we expect from federal allocation every month for the past 1 year is 26% of the entire revenue that we need, 26.1. And that means that with or without FAC, Lagos State government can operate. And somebody is telling you that he cannot pay salaries without FAC.
Kehinde Kajoshomo, Deputy Director of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, shared practical insights into how the reforms aim to simplify tax compliance and administration, emphasizing the need for a system that is not only efficient but also user-friendly for businesses and individuals alike.
One of the policies that will guide the work of the committee was to have a tax law that is simple in words, simple in rules, and simple in computation. The second policy direction was to harmonize the so many tax laws we have in Nigeria. Presently in Nigeria, we have more than 30 tax laws. And in those more than 30 tax laws, we have more than 50 taxes.
Ado Mohammed, a renowned tax expert, provided a historical context exploring the evolution of Nigeria's tax framework and identifying the gaps that these reforms seek to address. His analysis highlighted the importance of learning from past challenges to build a more equitable system.
In practice, we would agree that the tax laws being operated in Nigeria are archaic and does not reflect the economic realities. We have over 55 small laws being dealt with, and all the laws that are currently being operated, apart from being archaic, is they have been subjected to so many modifications that even the practitioners find it difficult to even know where to start. For VAT, for example, after the 1993, there is 2004, there is 2007. From 2007, what we have been having is VAT modification order, VAT modification order, VAT modification order. We have like 5 or 6 VAT modification orders, which make it very difficult for people to really understand what to pay, how to pay it, and even what is the current position. So the reform as a general is commendable because it tries to harmonize all these government positions.
Professor Mustafa Mohammed from the Accounting Department at Ahmadu Bello University brought an academic perspective explaining the economic benefits of broadening the tax base and reducing over-reliance on oil revenues. His presentation was a reminder of the transformative potential of a diversified revenue system. Senator
To me, it doesn't have negative effect on us. It's just that we are raising concerns that are unnecessarily. Concerns that we need to talk to ourselves. In the long run, if we can put our house in order, we are going to benefit in this. My concern is it the 60% based on derivation or is it based on consumption? If it is based on consumption, Northerners should not panic.
Senator Shehu Sani offered a political lens, addressing the legislative challenges the reform bills might face and emphasizing the need for lawmakers to prioritize the nation's long-term prosperity over regional and political biases.
What I want us to understand is that this is the first time in the history of Nigeria where a bold and courageous attempt is made to reconfigure, reset, and rearrange Nigeria's economy that has been parasitic, dormant, and docile.
Religious leaders like Sheikh Ahmad Gumi and Reverend Joseph Hayab highlighted the ethical and moral dimensions of taxation. emphasizing its role as a moral duty and a foundation for societal equity.
Do know that in development world, or in every society where people pay tax, you find people responsible, you have people question government, you have people participating in the act of governance. But sadly in Nigeria, tax becomes like something new. People begin to see it as an exploitation. But permit me to say that there is a problem that we must address. It's a problem of trust deficit. Because people seem to have questions about leadership. So even when leadership come with milk for them to drink and grow strong, they will be asking whether this milk is not poison. So if we address that, some of this problem we're having today, we can easily address it. But I want to encourage Nigerians that the debate about tax and tax reform should be centered on more about how it affects people than dividing people on either regional line, religious line, or whatever line. I think this is where we're getting so many of these issues wrong. When you are telling me that tax reform is because it is anti-North, and I ask myself, am I not a Northerner? I understand tax, and there's nothing about tax that affects me as a Northerner alone, but tax for Nigerians. We must begin to speak about Nigerians as Nigerians, not about regional people. If not, our progress will be deterred. So thank you for inviting us. We look forward to more engagement.
I thank the government for two things. One, stimulating the national discourse, which for a long time Nigerians are only meant to swallow whatever the government wants, so this is a very positive thing. Secondly, reforms. It's not only in tax we need reforms. I think there is no sector of Nigeria that doesn't need reform.
Professor Oke, an economist with a specialization in fiscal policy, delved into the technicalities of the reforms, highlighting how they could attract foreign investment and stimulate domestic production. He also cautioned about potential pitfalls if implementation was not meticulously planned.
Tertiary education transfer arose when the crisis of funding of tertiary education became an issue. But you will have noticed that over time, all sorts of things are funded from there. Am I correct, Prof? Even as well, you, Professor, you are angry like me, there is no longer a tertiary education trust fund. Now, all over the world, states are shrinking. The camera I'm holding here is a TV camera, is a clock, is a lot of things. Miniaturization. So instead of expanding institutions, you begin to shrink them. Now, if tertiary education trust fund is good to be a budget and funded platform, as this thing from a, you see, when you have a single access point for development funding that comes from such taxation, it becomes a question of who is entitled, whose name will be on that list. Am I correct? So nothing is really lost in that context. It's a question of better public education.
Professor Hawau Yusuf rounded off the discourse with a focus on social equity, emphasizing the importance of ensuring that the tax burden does not disproportionately affect vulnerable populations. Her call for inclusive policy making resonated strongly with the audience.
Public relations is the bridge between governments and the citizens, that effective communication fosters trust and ensures reforms succeed. And finally, that together we can use public relations to transform tax reforms into a tool for national economic renaissance. This is my message.
The dialogue underscored one crucial point. Effective tax reform is only possible when citizens and government collaborate in good faith, with all stakeholders committed to the common goal of national progress. As Nigeria charts its path forward, the stakes are high. The tax reforms hold the promise of economic diversification, global investment, and inclusive growth. Yet, their success will depend on continued dialogue, trust building, and a shared commitment to the nation's future. Every reform is a test of our collective will, of government's resolve to lead with transparency, of institutions' capacity to act with integrity, and of citizens' willingness to contribute their part. These reforms are not just about numbers or policies. They are about people, about creating opportunities, reducing inequalities, and laying the groundwork for a prosperous tomorrow. The journey will not be without challenges, but the reward is clear. A Nigeria that stands tall, resilient, and united. A beacon of possibility on the African continent and beyond.